Well, hello there. My name is Cynthia Rowland. I am part of the Ageless sisters, and I have my Ageless sister Gail Minogue today with me because this woman is a wealth of knowledge. Not only does she write best-selling books about numerology, she's also a wealth of information about what these numbers mean. So welcome, Gail.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I must say thank you for letting us shoot in your office today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Because when I was here a couple of weeks ago, I felt so comfortable here, and I felt that this room was magical.
It is.
It is.
Nice.
It is very nice.
Yeah, it's like the forces here.
And yes, there are forces here. Those unseen forces. And since I was here last, your new book has arrived.
Well, it's now there's the third edition.
The third edition of the original book.
Yes. It arrived yesterday.
Oh my gosh, I'm so fortunate to have it in my hand because in this book, the last chapter is the new chapter.
Yes.
And it's called The Helpful Hidden Power of Numbers.
Right.
Now let's go back and talk about your history with numbers because you weren't always a numerologist. You weren't always sought after by everybody who wants to know these things, were you?
Hardly.
You were in Hong Kong,
right,
working with textiles and fabrics.
Right.
And then you went to work where? On Wall Street?
No, I worked in Chicago in the commodity markets. I'm a licensed broker, and I've been a commodity broker since I think it's 87, 86. I don't know. It's early 80s somewhere. Yeah. And still am.
But that was numbers then. Yeah. And it's now translated into other types of...
it's interesting because if you look at commodities, they're called futures.
Yes.
So, and I deal in the futures. I deal with the future. So I found that like almost a metaphor for my work, which was a deeper meaning of futures.
Yeah.
And seeing the future, shall we say. That's another way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you in person on camera was because when we did our interview on the Ageless Sisters radio show, there were like 20,000, 22,000 people that tuned in to listen and have listened subsequent to that original conversation. So it's been a hit.
That's great.
So, but there are things that have just changed so quickly since we did that interview.
Yes.
All of a sudden we have new information about what's going on in the planet. And today I get an email from you about the housing market and how we need to pay attention to that. And now all of a sudden there's Edward Snowden in the news. And I wanted to talk about Barack Obama's birth date and what's his destiny number and all of these things. So here's like 6 questions I just asked you. So I'm just going
to... Where would you like to start?
Let's start...
Which one would you like to start with? Because we have the situation with the housing market. We have the situation with the NSA right now. We have
the IRS.
Well, we have the IRS, and we have, a series of these type of adventures going on.
Well, could you just devote a couple of minutes to...
All of them?
Yeah, all of them. And let's talk about why this is so important with us right now in this time in our history.
Sure. It's everything is cyclical. Everything is dependent upon a cycle that's... I don't want to say it's predetermined, but it's in a certain order. So if you look back to about 1760, you will find a very similar pattern of what happened with America. Basically, the American Revolution began about 1760. I mean, everything started to be seeded about 1760. And by the time it arrived in the Declaration, we had already had many, many events that are very similar to what's going on right now. So we're revisiting a cycle, and we're part of this period now that we're in is to go back and look what have we been doing for the last 240 years. How have we been running this show? We set up this government that we declared, our rights for the people, by the people, for the people. And then we establish this government, we go on our way, and we have wars and businesses, and we have a certain pattern that's been developed, some of which doesn't work anymore.
Outdated.
And it's outdated, and it was never intended, and where we're veering off the track, we have to come back to what was the intention of this, quote, I call it an experiment, of the assimilation for the planet, the people can assimilate better. So we are revisiting that period. It was destined to come back, about 240-year cycle, and it was destined to come back in 2008. So the setup just before 2008, you could see the setup. Hyper markets, housing markets, it was like, whoa,
Exploded.
Cheap airfare,
Yeah.
all these things, big McMansions, big fat people, and everything just sort of went, whoa. So it expanded. And then once this period hit, the purpose of it is to start the contraction and the cleaning out and the exposure of everything that doesn't work or everything that's false or wrong, or shall we say, I call it the uncovering of the dirt. And the funny thing is, the metaphor you see in the news, they're coming up with a lot of burials where they're going into the ground and burying up bodies that have had unsolved mysteries or mysterious deaths. I mean, yesterday was, I think, the anniversary of I don't know if it was the death of Jimmy Hoffa.
I know, it's
and
on the news again.
It's on the news again, the uncovering of, but they're uncovering, so this is like a metaphor for, I call it the dirt under the dirt.
The dirt under the dirt.
The dirt under the dirt.
Okay.
So you're going to see what's going on with the NSA, what's going on with the IRS, what's going on with all these levels of government that we really didn't know about. I mean, we kind of know they're wasteful or not managed well, but they're managed by us. So I don't know what that says. It says we're not paying attention to the house.
Yeah.
And so we have sort of a government right now that is very unpopular, not just the presidency, but the legislature. And so you have people who are sort of just waking up. And what you'll see now is the ability to expose. So this is not going to stop. You have another 12 years of this heavy exposure. More is coming.
So you're saying from now until 2024, we're on a roller coaster ride.
We're on I don't say a roller coaster, but a continual ride of contraction, exposure, pointing out where areas need to be changed, corrected, and minimalized where we have overexpanded. So you're seeing everything from the university systems, which now they're going online. And this morning I was reading in the Wall Street Journal that the automobile, Tesla, the beautiful car, beautiful. He wants to go direct to the public to sell it. He doesn't want to go through dealerships, which is the structure right now.
Right.
And of course the dealers are fighting him in every state just about that he tries to go in. And so Texas has just shut him out, and state by state. So he's literally leading a charge for, again, more self-control, more direct purchasing power of the consumer, of the citizen. So what we're looking at is more involvement of the citizenry, which was what happened at the American Revolution. Mm-hmm. So it's visiting some of the same issues. Before, it was King George III who was the boogeyman, and now it's the government that's the boogeyman. So it's the repression and the inequities that we're dealing with. So you could put anybody in office right now, I mean, as far as presidency, it would be the same thing, because it really is a matter of this transit, shall we say, rather than a certain individual. But Obama represents a lot of things that are inherent in the United States birth chart. So it's not surprising he would get elected at this time. You have to understand a couple of things, that the world is going through a change of ages.
A change of ages.
Right.
How do you define that, Gail?
Well, ages is based on the elliptical movement, shall we say, of the constellations.
Okay.
And about every 2,400 years, there's a new age as this moves in the heavens, because we are directly tied to out there, and we're all carbon-based. We're all the same. And so we're directly affected by these movements. And so we advance forward in these movements. And right now we're in the very beginning phases of a new age. It's called the Aquarian Age. But we are in that transit window where we're still kind of lots of parts to the old Piscean Age that we're leaving, to the Age of Aquarius that we're dawning of, shall we say, in that play. So you want to take a look at everything as a metaphor. When you take a look at a movie, like you just heard today, that they're going to allow female candidates for even the Navy SEALs.
Correct.
Right? And you remember the movies a few years ago, they had, I don't know, G.I. Jane or something like that, whatever it was. This was a way shower. So your movies and your comic strips are the way show of what's coming.
Isn't that amazing?
So they have
think about that.
It's stepped down for the public, because how else can you stand it? I mean, you couldn't, if you saw an ET coming at you, you know, when you got up to go to the bathroom at night, you freak. So we kind of deliver it to you in an entertaining manner. And so
that we're not afraid
of this change. You're being shown the change. You're being shown the mind control of the Aquarian age. A lot of this age is going to be extremely high tech, very detached, and very fast.
And we're seeing that right this minute with NSA. I mean, we're seeing that.
You live it.
We're living it.
And you have to weigh, what do I really want? Because if I'm giving up privacy here, then why do I expect it to not go across the board, you know? So what you're being asked, what are your limits? You're being asked to take a look at what were you willing to tolerate. Now remember, America had a particular purpose of when it was born. It was to be an experimental station on the planet for the birthing of this Aquarian age, and to begin to develop the rights of the individual.
I didn't know that.
Because before that it was a collective. You know, you had to do the king told you, the pope told you, or the lord, the feudal lord told you, or the tribe told you. So you didn't have really individual rights. It was always about the collective. I mean, it's interesting because we also ended most of the collective. I mean, I think you maybe have, I don't know how many kibbutzes you have in Israel anymore. And basically the collectives didn't work in China, and they didn't work in Russia. So all of these, that's all part of this design, is to get rid of that age, finish that age up. And the music has changed. It used to be, you know, we'd do Gregorian chants, and we would all sing together, and choirs, and now we have immersion music. I mean, it merges together. We have hip-hop with, you know, Indian chants. I don't know. It's just, we have jazz, which has, you know, several musicians playing their individual style, but it sounds good. So all that is really a precursor to the age that's coming upon us, that we're entering into. So we're trying to get used to this heavy, fast-paced, electronic age, technology, information age, biotechnology, biowarfare, cyberspace, all of this.
All new stuff.
All part of this new coming, and we haven't seen anything yet.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's much more exposure coming. Yeah.
When will we see this?
Well, you're going to see more this fall, probably, I'd say in September. You're going to see more. It's just going to keep, it's unfolding. It's unfolding. There's this, and it really affects the United States, because the United States, the people of the United States, the most generous people, really, truly generous, but they have kind of been in a false lull about who they are and how they present themselves to the world. You know, hey, why is this happening to us? We're the good guys. Or why are you doing this to us? Where is the world picking on us? Right. But it's not. It's like you have to go back and clean house here, because we have such an important role in the rest of the world. If you notice, what we do affects everybody. That's a setup. Yeah. Because we were chosen, or this place was chosen, to be the beginning, the experimental station, to begin the assimilation on the planet. So we have all this intermarriage, and we have gays marrying and step-forced parents, and we have what have you. And people think we're crazy because we are, but we are a genius in assimilation. We are a genius. Look at any other country. It does not assimilate like this place.
No, nobody does.
Nobody does.
So this is something that we should not be afraid of.
No, you should welcome it. It needs to be. It's like you've had a dirty basement, and you haven't gone down there and looked at what's growing. And oh my gosh, you know.
So you're beginning to get down there and uncover and move out and stuff. Things that don't work anymore.
Yeah, and you want a clean basement because that's your support.
Yeah. That's
underlying everything, you know, of everything. So you got to clean that. That's what we're going through. So we get appointed people like this Snowden guy. It's interesting. I haven't really studied a lot of him yet, but I can tell you that there was, and it's interesting, there's no accident who was appointed to do an assignment. But if you look at his situation, he's going through what they call in astrology a Saturn return. So he's doing a Saturn return right now with a Saturn in Scorpio. So there's a wound in this person's chart from childhood. that is a betrayal. So he basically doesn't trust. He never did. So he's kind of a perfect candidate to be put in a position where people trust completely, to expose where you really should not be trusting completely.
Well, you know, yesterday evening on the news, I saw his father on Fox hold up a photo of him as a 6-year-old boy. And I thought, what an interesting photo to show the world, because I felt like he was trying to portray his son as an innocent in all of this. There's so much media attention, so many people calling him a traitor. I haven't made up my mind, and I don't know how anybody else could either at this moment. Maybe you could, because you know
I think it's more to show you about the system. It's not really about him. It's about to show you the system, and to show you how things can be used, abused, misused, and to show you, is this what you want to do? Do you want to have it like this? How do you want to have it? It's like almost an invitation. And it shows you that there's you know, I always say gated communities cannot keep out consciousness. They really can't. I mean, you could fortress yourself in there.
Yeah.
But you can't keep out consciousness. And at this time, where we think everything is just absolutely foolproof, or we're making this assumption it is, here you find probably the most tightest security system in the world has been compromised.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, wow, wait a minute. So what do I believe? So it's making you look at your beliefs and take a look at many more things other than just looking at him. He's just an instrument right now. You know, and you know, we had conditions very similar to this during the Revolution, and we had certain people that were picked out to do certain jobs during that whole period, and they really, you know, Thomas Paine was one. He wrote Common Sense, and we have one of the. We always have a rabble rouser. You know, we have this. I can't remember his name. Is it Manning or something? He WikiLeaks, and
yes.
It's just to show us so that we make assumptions, and you don't want to really assume. It's not a safe way to live, is to make a lot of assumptions.
Well, okay, so knowing that, when you play with these numbers, do you feel like there's a lot of psychic ability that you bring to all of this, that you receive information somehow?
I probably do, but I'm not, you know, I don't sit there and say, I'm going to channel what have you.
I understand that, but I'm sure that you have...
I just take it, I don't even think about that way. I just, you know, I don't sit there and try to, what's going on. I was like, oh, of course. And then what I can do is I synthesize a tremendous amount of information.
Yeah, you must be a huge sponge.
You must be able to distill things. I think the right word for this period, again, it's a contractual period, is to be able to distill information to its clearest point. And that's why I can't stand people who are just full of air, hot air. And, you know, they're just out there doing their same methods they've always done. They just don't work now. People want truth.
Yeah.
They want the truth. They're tired of being lied to. They're just tired. They're tired. People are tired.
And I think there's a lot of fear, too, Gail.
Tremendous fear. Yes. Because the industrial system has changed. The jobs that are, most of the manufacturing jobs we had, they're not coming back. We're going to be probably having a larger permanent unemployment here. And we're going to have a larger volunteer base coming.
Really?
Because a lot of things will be utilized. We already see it. We just don't even give them credit. But across the board, from the classroom to the food banks to what have you, it's volunteers in America. You know, maybe a group of people living on a block will clean up their street themselves and get together and do things. So you're finding more of this type of societal
and community.
And community, and a diminishment of what we would consider employment. But we're in a transition to where we need to be more specialized in our efforts. If you're going to be a welder, then what kind of welder do you want to be? If you're going to be a baker, what is you going to be baking? So we want it's the area of specialization.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to be a coach, don't go out and just be, you know, a
Any
general
old coach. Yeah. Pick
Yeah.
your poison.
Pick your poison. You want to be
stay
a
with
baseball coach, then you're a third base coach, or you know, it's like really specialized. If you know, I know of a person who is an attorney, and all he does is dog bites, dog issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's his whole specialty.
Mm-hmm. So back to your new chapter in your book.
Yes.
This new chapter that you wrote, what was it a result of? The hidden.
Well, I've
hours.
used that. I've used the numbers are in patterns, and we have cycles like 1 through 9. Those are the only numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's patterns in intelligence that we don't really see. Like we'll say them, but we don't really know what they mean. And so we'll say, oh, he has a 7-year itch, or he's behind the 8 ball, or the cat has 9 lives. Well, why does he have 9 lives? Why am I behind an 8 ball? Why is 7-year itch? You know, why do we go on the 3rd strike? You're out. Or why do we do things in 3s? So there's a pattern, and 3 is a very, very creative number. So in my book, I talk about these patterns in the expanded edition I just did that you can use, and you can use, they're very simple. And there's also a pattern in the number 7 that you can manifest things and complete things within these numbers. And you do want to work with them. It's like we don't want to start things in a 9-year. No, it's an ending.
Yeah.
And so we do want to start things in a 1 year. And when I'm talking about years, I'm talking about your own personal year, because everybody has their own design. Everybody has their own blueprint. Mine is different than yours.
Right. What is yours, by the way? I didn't ask.
Well, you know, I have my date of birth adds up to a 5, so I'm a 5 life path.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like I'm in road number 5 in this life, and I can't get off of it. So it's full of change, and it's managing change and managing and deconstructing and managing it, and so that you're not destructive. And so,
And what about your destiny number?
my destiny is a 9, which is very humanitarian. It's all
Like mine
about,
too.
yeah, it's all about the masses and learning to let go. Because if your destiny is a 9, you must be able to let go. So I learned detachment, whether it's a relationship or it's even something that I prized. As I was saying that I just was delivered this rosewood furniture that was part of a marriage I had many, many years ago, and 25 years later, 30 years later, I'm getting this back to put in my home under unusual circumstances. And I'm like, wow, this beautiful piece of rosewood cabinet is coming back. And it's just it's letting go, and when it's right, you'll have it again if it's right.
If it's right.
If it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's these numbers, and it's really important that you know your life path and that you know your destiny, so you can live that life that you really created.
You know, your book is so well written, and it explains exactly how you develop all these numbers. And what I hadn't realized in the back of the book, when I talked to you previously, there was a place for everything to be written so that you could immediately access who you really are on paper via the numbers.
Yeah, you take a look, for heaven's sakes, at a lot of contracts you sign. You take a look at maybe your plans for a house you're going to do, or for a room you're going to do, but you don't even take a look at your own blueprint. I mean, it's unfortunate.
It's amazing.
Because it's all there, and all you need to know, what are your issues, what did you say you would do, what did you say you needed to have some more help with, what is your timing? Is this the time that you should be starting that, yes or no? And it's such a great
you
guide.
can find out by reading this
It's a great
book.
guide.
And just work the book. That's the main thing, is work the book.
And manage yourself.
And manage yourself.
Manage yourself. That's the thing.
That's a challenge. For me, anyway.
Well, yeah, we don't have to manage other people. Just manage yourself, and you can't really manage time. You can't. People will really manage time, and they have these things where the 4-day work week, or I don't know, the 2-minute manager, or whatever.
Yeah,
but
1-minute manager.
Whatever, 1-minute manager.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really basic, catchy book titles. But what you really want to do is manage yourself. That you can control. because all these things are going on, or all the time around you, and some of them are not fun.
Well, I received your email, or your, email from you today about your updates.
Okay.
And you're talking, we're going to close with this,
Okay.
but the housing market update. People are always wanting to know what's going to happen with the housing market, and you very succinctly put it together today.
I gave them dates.
Yes, you did. You want to share that with our listeners?
Sure.
Viewers?
For those who are looking for house prices to go up, they're going to go up. They're going to keep going up till about July of next year. And then they're going to go flat. I mean, you'll have, it's not that you're going to go backwards, but for appreciation, this is the window, is from now to July of 2014. So if you're thinking of listing and selling your house, I would encourage that. And I don't see the problem with interest rates really rising any time of any consequence to tank the market. So this is still a good time for people to be able to buy with interest rates reasonable. And at the end, the property value is going up. But it's after that period where they kind of go flat, and then they just kind of bump along, maybe 1 point above in inflation. So small, not much big, Right
big
now,
increases.
LA, from May of 2012, we are up 30% in the price of housing based on last May of 2012. May of 2013, we are 30% higher in price. But we still have so much underwater housing. It was $1 trillion worth of equity that was lost here. And so we really haven't even, a lot of people haven't even come back to half of that yet. So it sounds like a lot, but it needs to do a lot more and keep going for a few years. I don't think you're really going to see the values of properties to what they were till probably about 2020. Another 8 years. But you will have pockets, like anything near the beach is high. I mean, come on, there's going to be some really hot areas. But as an overall thing, I would try to sell your house by July of next year. And that's, again, another transit that's very favorable for housing. Buying housing during this period or selling your house. And so I would say probably rents will definitely stay high as well, or higher. Or higher. And as we go through this contraction, until the banks loosen up on their requirements, it's not the easiest time to really get a loan.
Unless you already have one.
But there's all kinds of, because of that over here, the unintended consequence of that, strict requirements, over here is a whole industry getting born of how people who can buy, get loans, private groups, private companies, they're coming up on the internet, all different ideas of funding, besides crowdfunding. But that's a whole other industry. But these others actually servicing property and helping people who have bad credit from the foreclosures, industries are cropping up for that.
Isn't that something? How that just all takes care of itself.
It's like an unintended consequence of this really harsh requirement is creating this other over here. There's always parallel tracks. One you can see, one you can't see.
That's right. And I want to say one thing that impacted my life. I've shared it with many people. When we had our first interview on the radio, and I said, well, what can you recommend for people to do? And you said, just keep walking.
Oh, is that what I said?
Yes. It's true.
Oh,
it's true. Just to keep on your path, stay with what you know, and do it.
Stay above ground.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward. Don't go backwards, and don't try to go back and get the past back, because can't do that.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're going to find, I've been through some very serious problems and rough patches in my own life, but I still remember the 23rd Psalm. And so it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So I always think, you don't stay for coffee in this bad space.
That's right. You want to keep on walking.
Just keep on walking and keep on walking through. And we will all get through this. It's exciting. There's a lot of hidden stuff that is very, very good that's popping up, like we talked about Tesla selling the cars
to individuals.
To individuals rather than dealerships, and how this is going to change that whole market. So you're looking at where are the areas that are going to go down in popularity, and we're the ones that are cropping up now that people will be able to work in. So we're in this transition, and it's good.
I like transition, I think.
Well, you think of the
I love
last
change.
revolution we had, it brought in the birth of the United States.
There you go. Okay, Divine Design by Gail Minogue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great interview.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're great. You're a good host.